All right, welcome back everybody to KnowItAllDM Entertainment. I'm KnowItAllDM. How's everybody doing today? I'm doing great. So I've been getting some questions lately about the Star Salvage update, and this is the 1.7 update for Star Salvage. Specifically, the questions I've been being asked have to do with the new scrap item and factory functionality of the game. So right now, whenever you salvage something in the game that requires one of the 4 specializations, it gives you back a type of item. Let's see, I'll show you. If I do scrap, salvage, and I'll salvage that, you'll notice it said engineering specialty up in the left, and here it is, and in a couple of seconds it will pop into, or it should spoil any second. Okay, it's not spoiling. Normally it will spoil into engineering scrap, although I am in creative, so that might be stopping things from, let's do this. All right, back to survival, and I thought things, perished in. That's weird. There we go. Okay, so it becomes military scrap, engineering scrap. It was probably just because it was in my inventory while I was in creative mode. And so whenever you salvage something that requires it, it becomes this scrap. Now, there are 4 different types of scrap, obviously, 1 for each specialization. And that wasn't one that required it. Thruster. So engineering scrap here. In a second, it'll just disappear to more engineering scrap. If you look immediately after, but there you go. So it quickly dissolves into engineering scrap. Because I gave it a 0 spoil time, so within less than a minute, it'll become engineering scrap or whatever other type of scrap there is. This scrap is specifically used to create some of the items in the salvaging tree here. You'll notice that that some of the salvage multi-tool requires engineering scrap. All the scrap weapons require military scrap to make. So you can salvage things like the minigun and whatnot. That's what the scrap is for. And as you can see, some of the other items you can do, you can make different types of armor from different types of scrap. You can make the junk cannons and such now require military scrap. The short range junk warp drive and the junk warp drive and then the emergency scrap warp drive all require scrap. And I don't have an icon for the junk crop plot. I should make that. But anything that like the junk hover engines and the junk thrusters, these devices basically have 75% the functionality of their engineering or whatever counterpart, but they use more power and CPU. They use twice the power and 50% more CPU. And so it's really, if this is your only option, you can do it, but it's actually better if you want to place a core on something and pull up full blocks to use that. Now, the question that people have been asking is when you go to your blueprint screen and want to spawn in something like the arrow or any blueprint, you'll notice that they have engineering specializations, medical, and combat, depending on what devices are in the thing. The way that you would put those in there, it does not use this scrap. This is not the item it's looking for. It's actually looking for the item that degrades into this. Now, the way that you're supposed to do this is by picking up the full blocks and putting them in there. So if I do retrieve blocks and then put down a core, all right, I'll salvage that and I'll retrieve one of these thrusters like that. You see, I've got a thruster now. If I, let's see if I went to, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go to this one. If I try to put this in there, it won't accept it. But if I put this in there, you'll notice it used 2 engineering specialization for that thruster. So you have to put full items in there. The larger the item in general, the more specialization it'll have. So if you put, say, the large capital vessel thruster, then you'll get, I think, like 16 or something like that. So, you know, whatever, if you made the exact amount that are on there, or salvage the exact amount that are on this and put it in here, you'll get the full amount. So, you know, because that's the way the factory works. Now, that being said, you'll notice that you cannot spawn hover vessels on this planet. There is no spawn, and even if I go to bases, you cannot spawn them. On the starter planet, you cannot spawn anything from the factory. In the current version of the game, any other planetary body, be it a moon or a planet that you go down on, apart from the quarantine planet, which is, there's only one, and right now that's Vextar Orntel. But every other planetary body you can go down on, you can spawn bases from the factory. In the future, I will have playfields that are around the system, around the galaxy, etc., that are called shipyards. And those will be space playfields with no planet in it, but they will have a POI, and the POI will be large enough to spawn in medium-ish capital vessels. Some will be able to spawn large ones, some will be able to spawn small ones, just depending on the size of the POI. It'll be random throughout, throughout the galaxy. So there will be the capability to spawn capital vessels, small vessels, and hover vessels in space at these shipyards. But for now, all you can do is spawn the bases on planets other than the starter planet. The starter planet, I wanted it to be a little bit more difficult. I wanted people to be able to, to have to salvage things, look around, not, like if you want a stationary base, set it up yourself, build it from scratch, or scavenge one of the bases in the area. Scavenge one of the bases in the area and use that as a starting point for your base to build from scratch. Usually what we end up doing, we set up a small temporary base in one of the junk storage areas. Usually there's a junk storage and there's the starter junk storage, which at the moment I actually, in my work in progress, which is this build here, you'll notice that the junk storage has solar power, is pre-powered permanently, and has a trader in it that can trade components and stuff. Eventually, before I make this public, which should be early February, before I make this public, the trader will have dialogue and will give a little backstory to his faction. Which, of course, at the moment, his faction is just the same as the base, which is just Salvage. He will, however, end up being part of a faction that I intend on creating called Interspace Salvage Industries, or ISI. But in any case, this little starter base is just the basic thing. There's no constructor, but you can use a food processor, you can use the fridge, and you get this little thing with some purified water in it. and you can sleep in here or use the shower to deradiate yourself. But there's almost always another junk storage, as you can see over here, which looks very similar to it. Where you at? Up this way. Like here. And this junk storage is one of the random ones that you can find. This one just happens to be the similar design, but powered by whatchamacallit, generator rather than solar powered. And it also will have this closet, but you can pick this up because it's not the, you know, the personal one, it's just that. And you can steal this, repair it so that it's, you know, so that it's airtight and whatever you want, and utilize it. You can take it down. You can start it as a little starter base. That's what I normally use as a starter base. But beyond this, I usually just go to a capital vessel and move out into the galaxy, because that's really what you're supposed to do in Star Salvage, is head out. You're not supposed to stay in place on the starter planet. And that's why I've got it so that bases are not placeable from the workshop factory on the starter planet. You can place a base starter as an engineer and start building from there. But if you're going to stay on the starter planet for more than, you know, well, more than your solo missions, it's going to be kind of, you know, boring. But I do plan on having the missions take you out into the galaxy, regardless of your specialization, regardless of whatever. And it's going to be a really cool one, especially once I add the other starter planets I plan on adding. One of which is actually not a planet, but in any case. So here's the deal. Okay, and I mentioned this in one of my last actual test videos with Fragalot and Gooblaish and Eternal Paladin, is that I've set up a Patreon account. And what I'm going to be doing is once a month, this scenario is going to be updated at the beginning of each month. If somebody wants to support this scenario by going on Patreon, on my Patreon, and joining as a patron of commander level or higher, commander rank or higher, which is $50 a month, then they will be given access to a special version called the Commander's Edition, which is updated once a week rather than once a month. So if you can't wait for the next update, that's how you do it. Beyond that, all my Patreons will be given shout outs and given access to a special Patreon only Discord channel, which I will be on occasionally. And there's places on there where you'll be able to give ideas and chat and try to build a community, which is ultimately what my goal with my YouTube channel altogether is anyway. So right now, my work in progress version, that's this version, does have some extra things beyond what is currently in the release version. And anyone who would want to help support this by becoming a patron of commander level or higher would get access to this version. Well, I guess it would be today from your standpoint. On Monday of each week, I will be updating the Commander's Edition. Now, that being said, some of the work in progress stuff may not be completely functional when released, but you'll get a preview of what it is. That being said, I'm actually going to be giving previews like this, but people won't be able to have access to it unless they subscribe at commander level or higher, or unless they subscribe to Patreon at commander level or higher. But in any case, I'm rambling a bit, as I tend to do. let's get into some details of what the future of Star Salvage holds. Yes, it does have a future. It has a bright and, well, no, actually the future for it's dreary and gloomy and full of trash. But that's what the scenario is about. Trash. Or I guess I should say junk or salvage or whatever. In any case, so some of the things that I have added in my work in progress version, you may see down here that I have a golden multi-tool. I'm probably going to dull the icon a bit to make it less gold colored, because it's supposed to be engineering yellow, but the same color as this. But on the icon, it looks kind of gold, so it looks like it's like, ah! Anyway, so this is the engineer's version of the salvaging master salvage tool, master salvage multi-tool. They return 100% of stuff. And that makes utilizing the deconstructor, which I believe is in here. Yes, the deconstructor, kind of pointless, apart from items. For blocks, since the deconstructor does return 100%, so does the master multi-tool, master salvage tools, and all that. So if you do the salvage, you are going to get 100% of the items back. Almost. It gives you 100% of any item that has like 3 or more. If it has 2 of an item, it might give you 1. As you saw when I was getting back some of the engineering stuff, it's kind of weird, but all the other stuff, it seems to give back 100% anyway. So, that is just one thing. You'll also notice in the tech tree that some other things are going to be changing. One of the biggest changes you'll notice is actually in the vehicle combat tree. Starting in this iteration, I have removed the tier 2 shield generator. Really, that means I need to rename these from tier 1 to just base shield and polarized hull shield. And you'll notice I've added base shield modulator and hull shield modulator. What this is if you build and place 3 of the 4 possible ones of these, you'll have the same shield and shield bonus as you would for a tier 2 shield, but just using the tier 1. And I gave it the ability to place 4 so you could get just a little bit more on there. What I plan on doing is at 20 as a 25th level item for each of these, adding a shield charger that increases the rate at which the shield charges. So it'll be even better than having a tier 2 shield. You'll just have 4 devices here and an additional device here. So you'll have, instead of just 1 shield generator, you'll have 6 total shield related items. I'm doing that just to add a little, that way you don't have to build, go straight to the full upgrade. If you don't have the resources, you can upgrade bit at a time. Makes more sense for a salvaging scenario. And I actually plan on using that concept in the future, in a future scenario, to completely replace the shield mechanic for bases and capital vessels. Maybe even small vessels, but at this point, I'm just working on the base stuff. In the salvaging tree, you'll notice there are additional junk weapons. So your basic junk rifle doesn't shoot very fast. You can't ADS. The tier 2, you can't ADS, but it's much better. I do plan on adding an ADS for this one with a scope. You've got the shrapnel shotgun, obviously. The rubbish launcher, which just launches, a small rocket with 1 shot. And the salvage sniper, which does one shot before reloading. Now, all of these, apart from the rocket launcher, at the moment, use older model stuff. And of course, they seem to be a little bit less powerful than their combat counterparts, which they are. You know, if you really want to do damage, this is the tree you got to go down. If you want to be able to take things out and don't care about, you know, being a powerhouse of damage, you can just use the junk weapons and whatever other ones you salvaged and take another tree. Take engineering, take exploration. And if you salvage enough stuff, you can salvage some armor. The scrapper armor here actually has less armor than the standard version of it, than just the armor you can find lying around. But you'll notice its carry capacity is actually higher. The volume capacity on the light armor is normally 100. This is 150. This one is 225 instead of 150. And this is 300 instead of 200. So you can actually carry more stuff with the scrapper armor. Additionally, I added a scrapper boost that can only be placed on scrapper armor, which additionally increases your volume capacity by 50. In any case, that's going to be it for this update. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to support the Star Salvage scenario, please consider supporting it on Patreon. Any amount will help. And any amount of continued support pledge of $1 or more per month will grant you access to the, I think it's $1, maybe $5. Will grant you access to the Patreon Discord server for my YouTube channel, KnowItAllDM Entertainment. If you want to pledge $50 or more per month, you will get premium access to the Star Salvage scenario, the Commander's Edition. Again, the Commander's Edition is a version that is updated weekly instead of monthly. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button. If you want to see more about the scenario, leave comments down below. If you have any questions about the scenario, please do the same. As always, I'm KnowItAllDM, and y'all have a good day now.